it, and that caused the demise. You've got to be careful what you say these days. You can't say certain things, so gender equality and everything. Be very careful. Anyway. Yeah. They're recording this, so I've got to be really careful what I say, as I end up in court or something. This political correctness has gone completely crazy in the UK anyway. You can't joke about a different race or a different culture or religion, or you end up in court. Like a. Yeah. Yeah. God, yeah. I mean. Yeah. I mean, I banned myself from Facebook, before they did. Anyway, such is life. Okay, I don't think we're going to get any more now, so I guess we'll start. Okay, we can. I'll make a start now, Prabhu. Camera Prabhu. Shri Camera Prabhu. Okay. So, my name is Titiksu Das, and I joined ISKCON in 1982 in the UK, in London, and I was doing Sankirtan book distribution. In 86 I got married, and in 89 I went to one city with my wife. We just had mridanga and cartels, and we opened a temple in the city Liverpool. And I stayed there for 10 years. And then after that I moved back to near Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I took over London Rath Yatra, which I've been managing since then, and also the BBT. So I look after those, and also I've been a director of the UK charity, a trustee for 27 years as well. So that's where I'm at. And so over the years, I've been involved in different initiatives to increase book distribution. And I didn't actually set out to write a presentation about the mission. It came out of wondering why these different initiatives for book distribution would have a temporary increase and then they would go back again. Book distribution worldwide has been about the 8 million mark for maybe 10, 15 years. And every initiative there'd be an increase and then it would go back to what it was. And I began to wonder why this was, because we had one initiative in 2016 called the 50-50 campaign, where we were inviting every devotee in ISKCON to distribute one book a week for the year as an offering to Prabhupada. So there's 50 books in a year. And out of the 9.5 million people that the media department said visit our temples every year, it was estimated that at least 1 million of these people, from the chairman of the GBC down to every congregation member, would have had enough commitment to have taken up this invitation. So if we had done that, we would have distributed 50 million books in 2016. So that's quite an increase. Some Christian groups, they distribute huge amounts of books. You may have come across the Gideon Bible Society. They're the ones who leave the Bibles in the hotel rooms. So anybody any idea how many they do every year worldwide? No? So they do 95 million every year worldwide, Bibles. And ISKCON, we're only doing 8 million books altogether. And the biggest Bible press in the world is in China. And they print 12.5 million books just for the home Chinese market in Chinese. You see? So it's interesting. So I was wondering, why is it? I was thinking, what's going on? How is it that there's so many really good initiatives to increase the preaching, and they just have a limited effect, and then they go back to what they were. And I was thinking, what has the same characteristics? I began to wonder, as it took 2 years to come up with these ideas, which I'm going to present to you. And I figured that this phenomena of having a temporary change and then going back to what it was is the same characteristics as that of a symptom. In holistic medicine, you don't treat the symptom, you treat the whole body, right? It's like blowing on the boil. If you blow on the boil, you get a temporary relief, but then again, you end up with the same problem. So I was thinking like that. There's a symptom. It's a symptom of a whole. And what is that whole? I realized that I didn't have a clear picture. What is ISKCON? What is the mission? I didn't have a clear picture in my own head. So I started to think, how can we describe our mission, or ISKCON, in the most concise and precise way? How can we get that down to the very basic thing? What is our mission? So we have the 7 purposes of ISKCON. This is the first place you look. What is our mission? We have the 6 Shastakam prayers, which is the philosophical instructions, understanding of our mission. We have everything Srila Prabhupada said about what we should be doing. We have everything every other devotee has said about preaching, the mission, this and that. How can we come up with something which describes all of that in a very precise way? And I got it down to 4 words. Bring others to Krishna. Now that means all the way home back to Godhead. And I figured that is our mission. It is to bring people all the way home back to Godhead. And there's also 4 other words you could have come up with, is give Krishna to others. Because essentially that's what we're doing with Sankirtan. We're going out, we're giving Krishna, Harinam, like that. But in order to bring others to Krishna, all the way home back to Godhead, you have to give them Krishna anyway. So give Krishna to others is already included within bring others to Krishna. So this is what I came up with as the mission of ISKCON. The mission that we are trying to propagate. You can't really get it any less than that. That's the smallest I could come up with. So, the mission, bring others to Krishna. Now, if you make a statement like that, it has a big implication. And the implication is, someone has to do it. You see? You can't make a statement like that. By itself, it's meaningless, unless someone does it. So that is the devotee. So then I began to think, how can we sum up a mission statement or a statement of purpose for the devotee? So then I figured, become selfless, bringing others to Krishna. This is a statement of purpose for the devotee. So I'll explain a little bit. We see that all great saintly persons, whether it's Lord Jesus Christ or Srila Prabhupada or so many saints in different traditions, they give their lives to the welfare of others, to bringing others to God. They're selfless. And this selflessness, there is a link. Now let me explain a little. I try not to be esoteric, so I'm just describing this in a very down-to-earth way. In the spiritual world, the topmost devotees of the Lord are the gopis. But amongst the gopis, there's another type of gopi called a manjari gopi. And the service of the manjari gopis, they're completely selfless in their service of bringing the other gopis to Krishna. This is their service. They're completely satisfied just serving the gopis, just bringing the other gopis to Krishna. Now, if we examine our parampara, we'll see that many of the acharyas, they're manjaris. Rupa Goswami was Rupa Manjari. Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Lokanath Goswami, so many of them are manjaris. So we can understand by axiomatic truth that selfless mood of the manjaris is extended into this world as a Sankirtan movement to selflessly bring others to Krishna. And another thing, if one becomes selfless, this also describes the devotee performing the Yuga Dham. Because to become selfless by performing the Yuga Dham, we become materially selfless. If you become materially selfless by performing the Yuga Dham, then automatically the 26 qualities of the devotee will arise. So it describes the Yuga Dham. It describes the link between Krishna Lila and Chaitanya Lila. It describes the qualities of the devotee. So this statement, it describes the mission, the personal mission of every devotee in terms of quality, because we have the 26 qualities, and in terms of deed, that the highest deed in the material world is to bring others to Krishna. So now we have the mission is to bring others to Krishna, and the missionary to become selfless, bringing others to Krishna. So next, the question arises, how do you bring others to Krishna? You have the missionary, or you have the method, you have the mission, you have the mission, the missionary, and you have the method. What do you do? So, books, prasadam, harinam, I call them the three great gifts. We have these three great gifts for the living entities. Really, it's two, because books is just an extension of Harinam. So we have these great gifts. But also, apart from that, we need a spiritual care program, because you can plant the seeds, but you need a spiritual care program to take the devotees back home, back to Godhead. Now in ISKCON we don't really have, at this point, a standardized spiritual care program for every devotee. We don't have that. But we can talk a little bit about that in a minute. So, books, Harinam, and Prasadam. So, Prasadam is a secret weapon. We all know that. And books is the Brihat Mridanga. So it's called the Great Mridanga. But I began to consider, okay, it's called the Brihat Mridanga, the Great Mridanga, but how much more great is it? Let's analyze, let's have a look at it. So in 1430-something, the first edition of the Bible was printed in Germany. I think they printed 180 Bibles. And out of those 180 Bibles, there's something like 40 or so are left now. They're still existing in private collections, in museums. And so we can understand the hardback book, it can last 500 years. So now think about it. You have Harinam, it lasts a few hours. And you have the hardback book, can last 500 years. And we can think about that a little bit. Just imagine, you can distribute a book, and it can go on preaching, that book can go on preaching for 500 years after you leave your body. 20 generations. So we can see that the Brihat Mridanga, it is quite a lot more powerful than Harinam. It's very important. And so we can imagine that these three great gifts, they're like on the tree of Sankirtan. This tree of Sankirtan has three branches. And these gifts are fruits of this tree of Sankirtan. And they're gifts for the living entities. And when we give them, They eat the fruit, but the fruit grows, the seeds grow and produce more fruit, and they bring others to Krishna. So also we need a spiritual care program. So as I said, we don't have a full-blown, standardized spiritual care program for every devotee, from the chairman of the GBC, the guru, everyone, all the way down to the congregation. We don't have a standardized program. We have some programs, but sometimes the tendency is, I've seen, that they can become managerial, where it's just tick boxes. 16 rounds, 4 eggs, tick, 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 1 hour reading, tick, tick, tick. And it can become like to some degree, a social club. Also regarding Harinam, regarding the Yuga Dham, chanting Hare Krishna is the Yuga Dham, is that correct? Would we say that the chanting of Hare Krishna is the Yuga Dham? I would say it's only part of it. Because Srila Prabhupada always mentions congregational chanting of the holy name. And in ISKCON 1, is mentioned congregational chanting, is going out for the benefit of others. So we have our japa, we have our personal sadhana, it must be performed in order to regulate our consciousness. But the higher understanding is, we then go out for the benefit of others. And that is when the real cleansing of the heart starts. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So my own personal idea of a spiritual care program, the leaders of the different groups, they would inspire the devotees by their own example. That not by peer pressure, not by guilt trips, not by managerial pressure do people join these different groups. That they are inspired by that devotee who is performing the Yuga Dham to want to assist him. And in that way, the Yuga Dham can carry on. So this is the method. So we have the mission, bring others to Krishna. The missionary becomes selfless, bringing others to Krishna. And we have the method, the 3 great gifts, and the spiritual care program. Now, next, we need some infrastructure to support the giving of the 3 great gifts and the care program. So, the temples, the centers, the namhats, the projects. This is a supporting infrastructure for the Yuga Dham. This is a supporting infrastructure for the mission. Because without it, you wouldn't be able to do so much. So, I would suggest that is ISKCON. ISKCON is a supporting infrastructure for the mission to bring others to Krishna. Now, let's just think about that for a second. The mission, or the word mission or church in the West, it's used interchangeably. Like for instance, the word church. Sometimes church refers to the congregation. Sometimes it refers to the physical building. And sometimes it refers to the organization. So it's used interchangeably. And there is a confusion like that. Same with the word mission. We have, there was one Protestant missionary in the UK, Christian Protestant, and he was called Wesley, this chap. And so it was called the Wesley Mission. So the Wesley Mission was written on the front of the building. And so people would say, oh, I'm going down to the mission. But the mission describes the activity, actually, not the building. It's the church of the Wesley Mission, you can say. So there's this confusion. So myself, I wasn't clear. When I first started thinking about what is our goal, what is ISKCON's goal, what is its mission, I wasn't clear. Is ISKCON the mission? Is the mission separate from ISKCON? Are they the same thing? Are they different? I wasn't clear in my own head. I asked devotees, have you ever thought about it? Are they? No. No one. I didn't find devotees it was something that they would think about. So it's very interesting. ISKCON is not the mission. By looking at this, ISKCON supporting infrastructure. Because the mission existed before ISKCON. It is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to bring others to Krishna. Now, another important thing here which I came across is that ISKCON, so I'm just trying to remember that point I was going to make. Yes, it's in regard to ISKCON being separate from the mission. In Achyutananda Swami's book, he writes, I was there in the storefront when Brahmananda came back from registering ISKCON, incorporating it in 1966. Brahmananda came back to the storefront in the evening, and he came to Prabhupada, and he told Prabhupada, I've incorporated ISKCON. And Prabhupada said, this is in his book, Prabhupada said, yes, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, it can be a great tool for our spreading of chanting Hare Krishna. He said, and Prabhupada said, but if it doesn't fulfill its purpose, we can dissolve it. So you should be very careful. So Prabhupada, here's a statement from Prabhupada which I'm using to illustrate the point that ISKCON is not the mission, ISKCON is the supporting infrastructure for the mission. I'm not suggesting that we dissolve ISKCON, but I'm just using this to illustrate the point. So here we have the kind of, focus that I was thinking in my mind. So next, we have the mission, bring others to Krishna. We have the missionary, become selfless, bringing others to Krishna. We have the method, the 3 great gifts and the spiritual care program. And then we need the supporting infrastructure, ISKCON. So the next question arises that we have, there's a little analogy that I came across. Actually, I didn't come across it. It kind of, I was chanting my rounds one morning, and I suddenly thought of this analogy. I don't know where it just popped into my head. I can't claim anything myself. So the analogy is, the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is eternal. It's coming all the way down the Parampara. And ISKCON is like the body, because it's carrying the soul in the material world. You see? So the mission is like the soul, and ISKCON is like the body. And one friend I was discussing this with, he said, oh, yes, he said. He said the soul was in the body of the Gaudiya Mat, but the body got sick. So Prabhupada, he took the mission and he put it in the body of ISKCON. You see? Now, it's an interesting analogy because it has some quite serious implications. And I'll just read these because my memory is not so good these days. For instance, one could be on the ISKCON conception of life. What does that mean? One could be just seeing ISKCON and forgetting about the mission, like the bodily concept of life. Do you see? For instance, thinking the infrastructure of ISKCON is all in all, and not optimizing resources to increase the mission, even though they may be available. So it's identifying with ISKCON only and forgetting about the mission. So this is something that could happen. We have to be aware. We have to be vigilant. Another one. It is said that a materially impoverished person, they can't think about spiritual life. They're too busy just fighting for survival. Have we come across any temples like that? They're just struggling to maintain, to pay the gas bill, or buy boga for the devotees, worship the deities. So they can't think about preaching. They're just struggling. They're in survival mode. So that's another implication. There's another one. What happens if the soul leaves the body? The body dies. So if ISKCON were to stop preaching, If we were to neglect the mission, then ISKCON would die. So these are some implications of this analogy. There are a couple of others here. If ISKCON is off the ISKCON conception of life, for instance, there's a couple of positives here. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the devotee is fearless. Therefore, if ISKCON is off the bodily concept of life, then it is fearless. It is not bothered by Ritviks or any other organization or any kind of threat from outside. It is completely transcendental. The whole society, they're not bothered. We just carry on preaching. So this is understanding. And then another one, it is an all-inclusive statement. For instance, every devotee is initiated into the mission. We're initiated into that parampara coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. ISKCON is the supporting infrastructure for the mission, but we're actually part of the mission. We're part of the soul, if you like. Therefore, if a devotee is not able to physically serve within the infrastructure, within ISKCON for some reason or other, they're not to be excluded. So this is an all-inclusive. This analogy makes every devotee included within our society. So that's another point. So, next thing. The goal is to achieve the mission. And to do that, we have to make the best optimization of our resources. But before we do that, we're going to break into little groups, and I'm going to make you all think a bit. So, most organizations, they have a motto. In the material world, you have universities, schools, organizations, they have a motto. Like the Special Air Services of the British Army, the SAS, they have a motto. He who dares wins. You see? Like that. Many have this kind of. My own school had the motto, God first, others second, self last. That is the motto of my school. So, this is a little exercise to make us think about the mission. So what we're going to do, we have to come up with a motto for ISKCON. So it's a motto that can be understood by us within, and also it is relevant to people who may not know anything about us. So now if you can all, we do groups of 4, I think is good. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Works perfectly. So we'll give you 10 minutes to come up with a motto for ISKCON. Yeah. First 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 in the last group. If you go with that. Okay. So you got 10 minutes, and I'll give you a warning when it's getting near the time. You 4 there? Okay. Okay, 5 in that group. There's 5 in that group, it's okay. Or 5 in this group, I don't mind. Okay, we're going to have 5 in this group instead. The noisy chairs, but we can always turn the mic up, you see. I can speak louder if need be. A motto is to it's like a slogan, like a slogan about what we're about. You're trying to communicate that. You know what is? Yeah, one-liner. Yeah, it's a one-liner. It's one from each group.
Well, maybe like what you tell me, you know, chant Krishna, worship Krishna, bring Krishna to us. Chant Krishna. Worship Krishna, bring Krishna to us. Shows what chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and also shows
You're recycling. What is the Prabhupada? Such as Chanting. If you take it out of the bottle, it's not going to help the water smoothly. I know. It's a bit.
That's why I think it's not good because it tells you that's why it says Krishna. It shows what we're trying to do. Well, if you take Krishna out, it's not going to be easy to find it. If you sit chanting,
2 minutes, everyone. 2 minutes. Chant Krishna, worship Krishna, chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and give Krishna love. Chant Krishna, Lord Krishna, worship Krishna.
Chant Krishna, sit.
Worship Krishna and give Krishna purpose. Give Krishna purpose. Give Krishna, give It's not being there. It's not taking your group. It's going away from that. But it's not that. It's not. On the way for us. Krishna prabhu. I brought out a paper. I like that. I'll get the spirit of it's an exercise. You just go to the mountain. This is an exercise. It's also getting gift of chant and we have so it's very nice. We've got science and education, chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and give Krishna to others. We've got ISKCON all the way to Krishna to all. But this is the spiritual life. It's very nice. It's all around. It's about beginning. And you go with room devotees in your room, thinking about what we're doing. It's all about Bringing love and devotion. High goal of love. Love and spread love. Spread love.
A little exercise. So, next. So we're going back to this goal, which we were thinking about before. Just adjust this lighting here. Okay, so the goal is to bring others to Krishna. We've established that through looking at it. And what is the best? The next question arises. We have the mission, and we have its supporting infrastructure, ISKCON. Now, the next question arises, how do we optimize our resources to bringing others to Krishna? How do we divide our resources between the mission and the supporting infrastructure? So that's a question, because in order to optimize those resources, we have to know, are we actually to give you an example, if you have a gold coin and you go to the Boga market and you've got to buy vegetables for Krishna, now, if you don't get the best deal in terms of the quality and quantity of those vegetables, if you don't get the best value you can, then what you're doing really, you're devaluing that gold coin. You're not getting the maximum you could with it, so you've devalued that coin. So we have the devotion of the devotees, their love. They've come to ISKCON and they want to serve. And if we don't engage them in the best way, to bring others to Krishna, then we're actually devaluing their love. We're devaluing the devotees. So it's a very responsible position to be a leader in ISKCON. Are we engaging people in the best possible way? And I don't mean by peer pressure and guilt trips and these kind of things. I mean by inspiring them in the Yuga Dham. So that's one point. The other thing, Lakshmi comes. The other resource. We have manpower and we have Lakshmi. But Lakshmi comes, but Lakshmi goes. This is the nature of Lakshmi. Lakshmi comes, Lakshmi goes. You may have noticed it yourself. So Srila Prabhupada actually said, if you get £1 million for Krishna, you should spend it by the end of that day. Because he knew, if we don't spend that Lakshmi properly for preaching, then it'll cause problems. So, we'll just move on here. We're going to have an open discussion in a minute. I want everyone to kind of, I want everyone's thoughts on this in a minute. So, we'll just pass the mic round or whatever in a minute. So, the best optimization of resources. Srila Prabhupada's recommendation is 50% to the BBT and 50% to the temples, to the infrastructure. So I've got a little verse here. Got a little verse out of Bhagavatam. I'll just read this because it's quite interesting. These Bhagavatam is the law books for the next 10,000 years. This is what we understand. And so Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport, I'll just find some glasses. So this is it's quite a heavy statement he says here. We recommend, this is from SB 713.34, this Srimad Bhagavatam 713.34 purport. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in our Krishna consciousness movement, 50% of it should be invested in printing books and 50% for expenditures, especially in establishing centers all over the world. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. So it's quite a statement from Srila Prabhupada there. So, this is his suggestion, this 50-50 split. So, it would seem that what he is suggesting is that as the mission grows, we also grow the infrastructure to support it in the same way. It's 50-50, like that. So the mission and the supporting infrastructure, they grow together. This would appear to be what he's suggesting. Now, Srila Prabhupada said, we should intelligently look at anything. We should not do anything blindly, in one sense. We should intelligently look at things. So we can test Srila Prabhupada's recommendation. We can test it. We can imagine a project, perhaps, that is nearly 100% mission. Okay? So there's a lot of Harinam going on. There won't be much books going out because you haven't got a supporting infrastructure. You haven't got vans, you haven't got management, you haven't got a way of getting the books. So there won't be so much. Maybe there's some prasadam distribution, but not so much. So there may be a lot of Harinam. So you're planting a lot of seeds, but you haven't got the supporting infrastructure to bring devotees back to Godhead. You don't have that. So you're planting lots of seeds. So would our resources in that instant be optimized for bringing devotees to Krishna? Would we bring more or less devotees to Krishna than if it was a more balanced split of resources? What do you think? We'd be planting a lot of seeds, but we couldn't cultivate those seeds. We couldn't grow them. We couldn't inspire them. There's no temple to go to. We don't have an infrastructure. So it would appear that if we had a project which was 90-95% mission with no supporting infrastructure, our resources would not be optimized for bringing others to Krishna. We would not be maximizing our resources. So now perhaps we can take this split the other way. We can imagine a temple or a project which is almost 100% infrastructure. It's all about the building. It's all about putting money into ISKCON, making bigger buildings. And now, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, and Srila Prabhupada specifically mentioned, or commanded actually, that he wanted a big temple in Bombay, he wanted a temple in Vrindavan, and he wanted a mega temple here. So these are the exceptions to this. But generally for the rest of the world, if we have a project which is nearly 100% infrastructure, and there's not much going on the mission, there's not much Harinam, there's not many books going out, are we optimizing the resources in that case? Are they being optimized to bring would we bring as many devotees to Krishna like that? You see? So I would think we probably wouldn't. So that split is somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, according to the project, we would be able to maximize our resources. Do you see? So the thing to think about is, are our projects infrastructure top heavy? Are the buildings taking all the resources from the preaching? Are we able to? So these are the things. But sometimes we're caught up in our projects. We've got so many things we're dealing with. Maybe as leaders we don't think too much. How are we maximizing resources? Some devotees, they think, if we build a big temple, devotees will just come rushing through the door. Of course, India, that may be the case, but for the rest of the world, if we open a huge temple in London, and we open the doors, where is everyone? This is the temple. So, as a general rule, temples don't make devotees. Devotees make devotees. Do you see? So to just have a big temple, and you're not investing enough in the mission in a similar way, then it's like putting the cart before the horse. If you put the cart before the horse can't go. So if you put the infrastructure before the mission, you're stopping the mission, or hindering it to some degree. So these are things to think about. I had experience myself. I went to Liverpool with my wife in 1989 to open a temple. We had Madanga, we had cartels, we didn't really have much else. And we managed to start we rented a small house and we started a Namhat program and Sunday program. And after a few months we had 30 or 40 people coming. And then after a couple of years, the congregation was saying, oh, we want a temple. We want to be like, there's another city nearby called Manchester, about 40 miles away. They had a temple. And they wanted, oh, we want to have a temple like Manchester. And then the tendency is, in the heart of the temple president, is to think, I could be a temple president. I could have a temple. And so I went out, I rented a building, and of course, it was premature. I got this building, and then all of a sudden I discovered all the resources were going to pay the rent, the electricity bill, the gas bill, the phone bill, the boga bill, and the preaching went down. And I realized I had prematurely opened the temple. You know, much, probably due to my own false ego, if anything. Do you see? But I learned the hard way. And so this presentation, a lot of this is based on personal experience. So I'd like to open this up. If anyone's got anything to say, whether they've got any thoughts on this idea about, you know, of course you can't, you know, if a project is infrastructure heavy, top heavy, you can't just change it like that. It might need a 5 or 10 year plan to gradually try and bring the balance back to something which is more optimized for bringing others to Krishna. So, has anyone got any thoughts so far they'd like to share with us? Mike is here waiting.
My name is Shruti Das from Laguna Beach, California, and we have to make the mission of, like we're saying, bringing Krishna to the most important part, and not like in Laguna Beach. Sometimes it's a little financially challenging, but we make sure to have the Sunday feast and have the preaching programs, and we're always available to talk to people. So either as a group or a few people have to take care of that. You can't switch everybody away, you know, to just collecting. You have to keep that part going. You have to make it a priority. And do an organizational scan to see, you know, what it will be like if we try to move to that level. Should we rent a small place or build a big one? You know, see what you can handle before you do it.
Requires maturity, thought. Yes. And I think it's very important that, you know, we do have elders in our movement who've had different experiences. I think it's very important if some of our senior members here can share their experiences.
It's not working, but I can tell about this. Should I do that? Just like this. Hare Krishna, I am Subhadra Devi Dasi. I am originally from Holland, The Hague. I joined in Amsterdam, but then we stayed in Holland. We had a preaching center. And now, after a long year, now there is a construction going on in The Hague. We got from the government land, and the temple has to be built. But now there is a lack of financial support, lack of devotees. Everyone wanted to be the temple president, and it's going like that. So I don't know we don't know yet how to solve it. Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu is the GPC there. He is also working on it. He asked us also, because me and my husband are living now for 20 years in Vrindavan, doing preaching. We are going to South America, Suriname, and Belgium, Holland. We are doing preaching work, but it's now like, yeah, how you will solve this? And there is also a generation gap there. The children who grew up in our congregational, this doesn't have any interest anymore in Krishna consciousness. They did Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav, etc., but you are not getting them into the congregation.
Thank you. So, regarding that situation, there's just a couple of things I've picked up over the years. One is Prabhupada said, preach and the money will come. is one thing, is to get out with Harinam and books and somehow bring up that side. And the other thing is to not think collecting money. Think collecting souls. Think about the actual people. These are people who need Krishna. You make friends with people. You give them Krishna. If they feel they're being looked after, then they give money anyway. But if you're just looking for money from people, for Lakshmi from people, sooner or later they pick up on that. Oh, they're just after my money. And they go away. So the important thing, if you're just thinking about these are spirit souls who need Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate with that. In a very blunt way, if you get the heart, you get the bank balance anyway. Of course, that's a little bit, I don't know, a crude way of saying it perhaps. But go for the heart. That's my experience.
Yeah, but that's the problem. There is no one there
Uh-huh.
go for distribution, go for arena, it's so hard. Everyone there is working,
My experience with the younger generation is they may not want to work in ISKCON. Just very quickly, because we don't have so much time. But my own son, he said, for you, Dad, it's different. You had a life-changing experience, confirmed, where you joined ISKCON and you gave up everything and you just walked in and you just went for it. He said, but I was just born into it. I haven't had that life-changing experience. But he loves kirtan, and he loves helping me with Rath Yatra, and he loves prasadam. So some other devotees were talking about some youth at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I was saying, well, they all like kirtan, just get them out on Harinam, let them organise their own. Maybe you take them out one time and find out what they like. If they like prasadam, just get them distributing prasadam, Somehow we have to find. Prabhupada had no one in New York. He sat down under a tree and he chanted by himself. So we didn't have anybody much in Liverpool. Myself and my wife went. We went on Harinam, just two of us on Harinam. Of course, my son was born. She was pushing the pram like this and playing cartels. And I'm playing the mridanga. And Mahavishnu Swami, as an English sannyasi, he was in Manchester. And he was going on Harinam by himself. It was just him and a pair of cartels walking down the road. So we'll have to start with whatever we've got. And Krishna will reciprocate. He definitely does. Anyone else like to say a quick word? I think we'll have to wrap it up.
Srila Prabhupada recommended that 50% should go for BBT and 50% should be there for temple needs. But how much it is getting followed in different temples? I just want to know about if you have any idea of how different temples are following this strategy or not, or how it is going on in ISKCON basically.
So the question is, do we have any information about what the ratio is in our ISKCON temples? Now, I don't actually have any hard facts, but my own experience from traveling around America, the UK and Europe, I don't have any experience in India, is that it appears that the infrastructures are a little top-heavy infrastructure. It appears that more Lakshmi is going onto the infrastructure than is going to the mission. That's what it appears to me. I may be wrong. But it's something the GBC could think about, doing some research. They could do an audit of every project. What percentage is going on the mission and what percentage is going on the supporting infrastructure. It would be an interesting thing to look at. Are we optimizing in ISKCON? Are our projects optimizing their resources to bring others to Krishna? Now, we have to finish there because we are on camera and we've been instructed that we have to finish exactly on time. So, thank you very much, Prabhus, and I hope you can perhaps look in your own projects and see if there's any inspiration there. Thank you. Hare Krishna.